Hello and welcome to myfinanceteacher.org. Today we're going to talk about precious metals and the general stock market. Talking about the precious metals, back on the 12th of September, I shared this post with the members in relation to precious metals as well as the dollar index. And as we often do, let's start with the dollar index first. And a couple of weeks ago, I did share these two scenarios for the dollar index, the blue scenario and the red scenario. Since then, it looks like that the US dollar has been following this red scenario, and with the 14-day RSI at 74 right now, dollar is definitely getting a little overheated here. In relation to the intermediate and daily cycles on US dollar, the intermediate cycle started over here in June this year. Whereas for the daily cycle, there is a bit of a question whether over here at the end of August, dollar has finished its daily cycle or not. It looks like we have seen the daily cycle low finishing there with a relatively modest decline lasting for only 4 days or so. That would give us the first daily cycle lasting for only 47 days. That's pretty short, although not extremely short, putting us in this second daily cycle that has already been going on for 27 days. That's nearly a month. Usually these cycles last for about a couple of months. So we are probably getting close to the peak of this ongoing cycle. And coming back to this question of the daily cycle low at the end of August, there is also a possibility that the US dollar is still in the same ongoing daily cycle, which has already been going on for 74 days. That's pretty long, but not extremely long either, in which case there is just that much more likelihood that the dollar is going to drop down into the daily cycle low as the cycle is getting pretty old. Looking at the Bollinger Bands, we see that Bollinger Bands are getting relatively wide, and we have seen multiple pokes above Bollinger Bands, which usually also indicate a bit of a turnaround in momentum relatively soon, which of course would be beneficial for the price of gold. Looking at gold, while dollar did follow its red scenario, gold, interestingly enough, didn't follow the corresponding red scenario here. While dollar was rising over the last couple of weeks, gold is generally moving sideways. So this big question with gold is whether this low in mid-August was the intermediate cycle low or not. Are we going to see a new low sometime soon, as we were expecting with this red scenario, stretching this intermediate cycle to relatively long 200 days or so? Or have we seen the intermediate cycle low a few weeks ago, with the intermediate cycle lasting for 174 days? As time moves on, as dollar is becoming a little overheated and gold moves sideways, the likelihood of the August low being the intermediate cycle low, meaning that gold is likely to follow something like a blue scenario, is increasing. So as dollar is likely to cool down sometime soon, if not this week, perhaps next week, that might help gold break convincingly above the 200 as well as the 50-day moving averages. And more importantly, that would signify continuation of this rally into a new intermediate cycle. Looking at sentiment in precious metals, in gold specifically, usually intermediate cycle lows take place with this optimism index, the blue line, somewhere below the level of 40, often even as low as this green line at the level of 30. That's what we see historically, although sometimes, as in late 2020 as well as through most of 2021, intermediate cycle lows might actually take place with this optimism index somewhere in the 40s. And looking at what happened over the last several weeks, we see that the market sentiment bottomed near the low 40s, around 41, 42, which is pretty close to where the intermediate cycle lows do take place. Again, increasing the likelihood that the intermediate cycle low is behind us, and gold is likely going to move higher, perhaps over the next several weeks. Next, moving on to the general stock market. A few days ago, I mentioned to the members at myfinanceteacher.org that perhaps a bit of a pivotal momentum is upcoming. Let's look at S&P 500, and over the last couple of weeks, we have been successfully shorting the stock market using PSQ. Yesterday, I've taken partial profits, reduced the position, and I might close the position if today we see a repeated green candle on the stock market. Throwing in these Fibonacci retracement numbers on this ongoing intermediate cycle, yesterday the S&P 500 retraced the 38% Fib retracement, As I mentioned in many of my previous videos, some of the most common levels that are retraced are either 38%, 50% or 62% retracement. On the other hand though, this daily cycle is still relatively short. 38 days is a little shorter than usual. It's not extremely short, so we might finish this daily cycle anytime now. But if it stretches closer to an average duration, perhaps we might have another few days down in the stock market to retest this 200-day moving average before the intermediate cycle low takes place. That's where we have a nice opportunity to unload our short positions and go long. Similarly, looking at the sentiment on the general stock market, we see that it's dropped to below 40, currently at 38, and the intermediate cycle lows usually do take place near this green line around mid-30s. Although sometimes the declines can be a bit more severe. In either case, the market sentiment is already pretty low, and I think if not this week, perhaps sometime next week, we might see a bit of a buying opportunity in the general stock market. And of course, for more frequent and detailed updates on a range of assets, including precious metals, the general stock markets, energy, some of the most interesting topics in energy are uranium-related assets. For all of that and more, join us at myfinancesteacher.org. Do it now to take advantage of this upcoming buying opportunity. What you also gotta do now is, of course, give this video a like and share it with your friends. Have a terrific Tuesday. Bye-bye.